Hello everyone, I'm going to share my screen because I don't have any presentations really for today, but I would like to, show some clues, some ideas on what we can actually achieve by using Lokalise API and webhooks. So here is the task for today. We're going to write a script that checks when the file is uploaded to Lokalise. We're going to create a new translation order. And so once this order is completed, we're going to create a pull request on GitHub automatically as well. So here is the solution. Basically, we're going to register a webhook. So our application is going to register a webhook on Lokalise for my project. And so it's going to listen for file uploads and for order completion. And then when the file is uploaded, I'm going to create translation order using our API. Then once the order is completed, basically we're going to initiate file export and we're going to fire this GitHub trigger, and then we can just merge this pull request. So I've already set up a project. Currently it is empty, but I've already linked it to this GitHub repository which contains my sample application. So this sample application is written with Ruby on Rails, but we can achieve the same result with any other programming language. The idea would be very similar. So I've already created this Ruby SDK, this Ruby client to communicate with our API. So I have my Lokalise token, which I'm not going to reveal for obvious reasons. And then the first step is to actually write a script to register a new webhook at the given project ID. So here is my create method, and I'm going to start writing some code. So I'm going to use my API client, and then I'm going to say create webhook. Then I'm going to grab my project ID, which is going to set in the form. So the form is going to look like this, nothing fancy. I'm just going to enter the project ID, and the project ID can be grabbed from more settings, and then here you are going to find your project ID, which is unique and cannot be modified. Okay, now what? Now basically we need to provide a URL, because we should point to our application that is going to listen to events. So that's the URL. And then I believe I'm going to say API callbacks notify, something like that. So that's my custom URL that is going to listen to these things. Next, we're going to have events. That is going to be project imported. So whenever file is imported, I'm going to do something about it. And then team order completed. That's basically it. So that's how we can create a new webhook on Lokalise by using Lokalise API. The next step is to actually listen to those events. So I'm going to open another controller, which is called callbacks controller. Here's my notify method that I've already created. And so we're checking for two events, project imported and team order completed. So the first thing is, what we are going to do when the project is imported. The idea is to create a professional translation order, once again using our API. So I'm going to fetch the project ID from params. So params is what is sent to us by Lokalise. So I'm going to grab the project ID. That's step number 1. Then the step number 2, I should actually understand what translation keys I would like to add to this order. So I should somehow understand, like, let's add those IDs to the following order. So I'm going to write another method that is called getKeys4. And I'm going to pass this project ID right here. So we're going to take care of this method in a moment. Next, I'm going to create a new order, and I'm going to say once again API client, because we're going to use API. So that's going to be create order. And then I will need my team ID. So that's going to be hard-coded, if you don't mind. So that's my team ID. Of course, you can find out this team ID using the API as well. Then we're going to say project ID is, obviously our project ID. Then my credit card ID is once again hard-coded. We can fetch card IDs using API. Then as for the briefing, there's not going to be any briefing because that's a machine translation. And what else? Source language ISO code. I'm going to say language ISO. Then I'm going to choose target language ISO codes. So that's the languages I'm going to be translating my content into. I'm going to say FR because I would like to translate into French, for example. Then what? Then keys. I'm going to grab the IDs of my keys. Then I'm going to choose the provider. That's going to be Google Machine Translation. And then translation tier. There's only one tier for Google MT, which is tier number 1. Now let's take care of this get keys method. I'm going to create it right here. So that's going to be project ID, and we are going to find the relevant translation key IDs that I would like to work with. So once again, API client to the rescue. So for the given project ID, I would like to find certain keys. And also I'm going to set the limit to 5,000. That's the maximum limit that a Lokalise API actually supports. So I'm going to filter by file names. I would like to find all translation keys that are linked to some file name. So I'm going to use lang ISO and then .yaml because, well, my translations are stored inside the YAML file. So here's an example. That's just like two translation keys, nothing fancy. Of course, you can use any other file names as you like. Filter translation lang IDs. I would like to grab this language ID. You can use any other language ID as well. Also, I'm going to say filter untranslated because I would like to find only the keys that are not yet translated, obviously, into this language, which is French, I believe. So there is no reason to create translation order for the keys that are already translated. Then we should grab only the key IDs from this response. So I'm going to get the collection of all keys. Let's do some mapping. We're going to use key ID. So this method is going to return all the key IDs that I would like to include in this order. Basically, that's it. So we've handled project imported, and we are now creating this translation order with these params. And the final thing to do is to actually handle the order completion. So we would like to create a new pull request on GitHub by running GitHub trigger on Lokalise. So what I'm talking about is basically if we proceed to the download page, then here we can see there is a GitHub app trigger. So I would like to fire this automatically. So how do I do that? I can proceed to this method. Yeah, actually, you know what? Maybe let's also create, I would like to store this translation order inside the database as well. So there is a table called orders, and I would like to store it there. So that's some information, just, you know, to keep track of what's going on. So that's for my internal usage maybe. And then I'm going to find this order by its ID. So once the order is completed, Lokalise is going to say to my application that this order ID is now done, and I'm going to find it inside my database, inside the orders table. And I'm going to say that the status is now completed. And then we're going to say download files. So once again, API to the rescue. My format is YAML. Once again, I'm going to preserve the original file names for my translation files that I'm going to download. I'm going to filter languages. I'm going to, I'll take the French language because I used it right here to translate into French. So now obviously I'm downloading French. And I'm going to filter data, and I'm going to say translated. So only the translated data should be exported to GitHub. I'm going to add new line at the end of the file. Sorry, it's new line like this, I believe. Yeah, the main thing is to trigger GitHub. So that's going to be triggers. Also, we can provide indentation. It's going to be 2 spaces. The indentation inside my translation files, because I use 2 spaces here. And I'm going to say YAML include root set to true. Why? Because, well, inside my YAML files, there is a root key which equals to the language that this file contains. And basically that's it. So now we have fully working script. Well, hopefully I didn't mess with anything, but probably I did because I was writing it, well, very, very fast. But anyways, we can now push it to Heroku and we can check what's going to happen. Finished script. So let's push to Heroku. Yeah, sorry, Heroku master. Okay, so that's like a brief demonstration of what we can accomplish by using webhooks and the API. Of course, this scenario it can be expanded further. I just don't have time to show, well, more code samples, unfortunately, but still, hopefully you got the idea. So the setup can be really, really powerful, and we can perform, well, any modifications to our translation keys, basically. So let's wait maybe for a couple of moments for this application to be deployed, and then maybe we can try to at least register a webhook for my translation project and see how it goes from there. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer as well. Now, yeah, I think it's nearly completed. Compressing, launching, and boom, yes. Okay, I'm going to update this page. Unfortunately, it's free hosting. Yeah, now it works. So I have to provide only the project ID to register webhook. And now, if everything goes fine, I can proceed to apps. And here inside apps, I should see my webhook being created. So manage, and yeah, so this callback is provided, and you can see that project import order completed. So basically this webhook is created, which is great. And now let me try to upload file. I might have messed with something. Maybe I've made a typo here, so I'm not sure it's going to work. So I'm using this English translation file that I've showed you a minute ago. So this one, I'm just going to upload it, this translation file. Okay, let's see. Yeah, perhaps I've misspelled something, but well, it should create actually a new translation order for me. Yeah, so the order, I believe, is created, but at least the date is correct. And we can see there are two translation keys, and we're translating into French because the original was English, so I translated into French, obviously. And we can check those keys by clicking on them. And yeah, well, you know what, take a look at that. So the translation is provided for us, so I didn't do anything. It was somehow, well, it's a miracle. Also, we can take a look at the logs for Heroku, and we're going to see, let me make it a bit larger because it's not really visible. Yeah, like this. So we can see that here is the webhook notification that we get. So it says event is order completed. We get the name of the project, the ID of the project. We can see the order ID, the provider, and all this information is present here. And then once the file is uploaded, we get this event. So project imported. So everything is listed here, and we can use this data. And now the moment of truth. Oh, yes, it works great, really great. So we can see the pull request that is created for us by Lokalise. And we can click here, we can see files change, and guess what? We get the French translation. So now I can just merge it, and it should work really, really nice. Basically, that's it. Of course, I'm going to share this code sample somewhere. You know what? Actually, it's already available here at Lokalise API demo. So I've already pushed all those changes. So that's finished script. So you can check it by yourself if you'd like. So everything is updated. Of course, we have more examples of how you can work with the API and the webhooks. You can just browse our developer hub. So there are guides. There are lots of guides provided, so you can see sample apps for API, for webhooks, custom processors, and different technologies. So feel free to browse it. Well, we did our best to prepare useful code samples. And with that, thank you for your attention. And so, Tom, you can proceed from here, I believe.